Hype is a wonderful thing. Think how great you feel when your whole body has reached levels of excitement that you can't contain as you count down the days to a specific event. Could be the release of a new game, a movie, or of course, a wrestling match. 9 times out of 10, if you get everything before two people tangle correct, you're going to do alright simply because the fan base is so invested and they can't wait. It's been circled on that there calendar for weeks. The other issue, of course, is ensuring you come away feeling the same. Too many times we as humans have let our emotions get away from us, only to disappoint ourselves coming out the other end. It's really sad. So with that lovely nugget summed up, I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 10 wrestling moments that couldn't live up to the hype. Number 10, Cody versus Shawn Spears at All Out 2019. Now I will say that before we get into this, I think there is a counterpoint. As already made clear, the build to this match was excellent, and given that Shawn Spears had never really been given his due as Ty Dillinger, this was his coming out party, and it was like watching a man reborn. You could have argued it was the dude who loved the number 10's twin. So no matter what side of the fence you sat, all the lead-in rocked. Happening before AEW had a weekly TV show, events had to happen at pay-per-views and on YouTube, and Cody and Shawn could do no wrong. Even when they did, it kinda helped. For example, at June's Fyter Fest, Spears waylaid Cody with a gimmicked steel chair, which completely failed to do its job, and busted the American Nightmare open something fierce. It was a horrific reminder of wrestling's past, but the blood that flowed did a great job in getting you invested. The assault had been fueled by Cody telling his friend he was nothing more than just a good hand, so to prove him wrong, Shawn tried to kill him. Made all the sense in the world. You also had Brandy Rhodes bigging this up with a fire promo, and a terrific job had been done all around. When they clashed though, some felt like the match itself was a little bit behind the promotion, and I can see that. I still enjoyed the hell out of it, and it was yet another feather in the cap of Cody, who continues to have great bout after great bout when pay-per-views come around. Number 9, Money in the Bank 2020. Another entry where I'll throw a spanner into the mix by admitting I enjoyed it mostly. It's fair again to say that this was lost on some. A good attempt at something new, but not one that was necessarily a home run for all. This wasn't the case as we counted down the days, with the idea that we were going to go inside WWE HQ to get hopefully a few glimpses of what lay inside, including that infamous office gym. There was also a massive tease that someone was going to be hurled off the roof. That's the dumbest thing ever, but never forget that dumb is good. People were ready like Bonesaw. That was the real kicker too. After many Raw and SmackDowns where this threat of death had intensified, when Baron Corbin did throw Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black to their demise, it was just a little bit underwhelming. No one reacted like this was it for the pair, and so it was when they just waltzed back onto the show like nothing happened. It was weird. Clearly a case of feeling backed into a corner, so wanting to try something new. This came and went with so little fanfare you'd likely already forgotten about it. Not best for the Money in the Bank and its popularity among fans. Number 8, the reveal of the Black Scorpion. Always know where you're going. This is one lesson wrestling teaches you over and over, and yet some people just don't listen. Also sums up WCW's Black Scorpion angle. After Sting had beaten Ric Flair for the world title, the Stinger started to receive messages from an ex-friend who was gonna take him out. We didn't know who this was as his voice and face were disguised, with the only info being that he was the Black Scorpion, which was of course a rip on Sting's whole gimmick. The rumor mill soon started to suggest it was going to be the Ultimate Warrior, if only it had have been. Instead, after Booker Ole Anderson realized he had no clue who to cast, he put himself in that role, but then he got injured, so we just went with Ric Flair. Because why not? It didn't even go anywhere because after unmasking and taking on Sting at Starrcade 1990, Sting won anyway. If this sounds like it was made up as we went along, it's because it was. Number 7, Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 1993. This was everything in the early 90s. Wrestling's unsung hero versus its future. Everybody wanted to see this match, even your nan, and she didn't know what sports entertainment was. It had also been great beforehand with a brawl at WrestleMania setting the scene. There were outside subplots too thanks to Marty Jannetty and Diesel, and it had everything because we had a perfect babyface and a perfect heel. Nothing had been left to chance. Then somehow when they did clash, it was just okay. A bit all over the place and not overly exciting, it didn't even have a finish. Diesel just pulled Perfect out the ring after the Perfect Plex, which led to the Heartbreak Kid winning by countout. Just okay at best. This would have been better if we hadn't all got so wound up for it. So more fool us, I suppose. Number 6, Mordecai. In 2004, WWE decided they needed a new Undertaker. This made sense as who had a better character than that, but how they went about it was bonkers. They seemed to think that you could just do some hocus pocus shit, and that was that, all done. The attempt in the mid-2000s was Mordecai, who pitched his character to Vince McMahon by telling him that this dude was a guy enraged by sin. He was going to have a confession booth that he would smash through as someone was bearing their heart, and apparently McMahon was so wowed by this, he quipped that the real-life Kevin Furtick was about to make $1 million. Not quite. He did debut with the plan to have him clash with Undertaker at WrestleMania, and yet instead in execution this was really hokey. It was clear the powers that be weren't truly behind it, and before long, he was let go. It is such an odd story. Number 5, Taker vs. Goldberg at Super Showdown 2019. This match was such a letdown. Not only could you see it etched onto both guys' faces as the match was going on, but even after the fact, they admitted it. There was no point pretending that this was anything other than not good at all. Covered brilliantly in the Last Ride documentary on the WWE Network, the dead man was left seething at the sheer disaster this was, mostly because Goldberg had actually almost made him a dead man. For context, Bill had knocked himself sideways by headbutting a locker before the match, and then smacking himself silly when he clocked that same head into the ring post. Then aside from this going way too long, the pair just couldn't pull off what they wanted to do. The jackhammer attempt is one of the scariest things you will ever see, and I've seen a ghost. In hindsight, this should have been a 3-minute spear chokeslam affair, and just don't watch it. Still not sure Goldberg and Taker was an actual dream match, but now, it definitely wasn't. Number 4, one final beat on the 8th of April 2020 NXT. With new feuds and ideas needed, NXT decided that the last chapter between Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano would be a cinematic match on NXT. We would give it time, we would give it twists and turns, we would give it everything. And that's why this was a bit of a shame. Because despite doing all they could to make this a classic, it just wasn't. The sheer journey the two had been on needed fans losing their mind, and without it, it lacked the drama necessary. WWE tried to insert that by having Candice LeRae interfere and go heel alongside her husband, but even only that was half good because many were enjoying her run as a face. Everybody here is so skilled they managed to make it work after the fact, but whereas this should have been something to go back to time and time again, I think it's a one and done, and then you're out of there. Number 3, the 2020 New Japan Cup. Right, I straight up admit I was on the other side of this one because when Evil turned his back on his friends to join the Bullet Club and become a double champ in New Japan, I kinda loved it. It was different. Why the hell not when you don't have fans and Evil deserved his shot? As I know this was not a feeling across the globe, because I looked on Twitter that day. This reaction may have come down to the fact that while AEW and WWE carried on regardless through the pandemic, NJPW took a break. It meant there was a lot of excitement when they did start back up, and not only were people shocked that Evil made it to the final, but they were flabbergasted when he became not only the IWGP champion, but the Intercontinental title one as well. It's still irking some people today, and although this hasn't been the best output from New Japan in the last 12 months, it's intriguing enough and gave the Bullet Club a nice new twist. I say let it play out too, but I know, you're still mad, I'm a bald idiot. It's okay, you are allowed. Number 2, what is in Kane's bag? Certainly not a euphemism, but it was a big story on Raw in 2008, as the Big Red Machine started carrying around a bag asking everyone what the hell they thought was in it. He started talking about it after losing a number 1 contender match on a Monday night, where he did query whether someone was alive or dead. You weren't meant to know who that was. It was part of the so-called fun. Straight away, the rumor mill began with people wondering if it was a way to reintroduce someone like Paul Heyman or even Vince McMahon to TV. The choices were endless, and then it turned out to be Rey Mysterio's mask. Now this might have been alright if there was any kind of logic, but not only did we never see any attack, we were meant to take bonkers Kane at his word that he had just tried to batter a man to death. Okay. It was just a way to start a feud between the two, but it was so rushed and full of holes, when it aired on pay-per-view, it felt like just another match. Great. Number 1, 316 Day on the March 16th, 2020 Raw. This wasn't really anybody's fault. Just as 316 Day was rolling around, a 24-hour period where all wrestling fans toast the Texas rattlesnake, the world shut down. Crowds were banned from arenas, WWE was forced into the Performance Center, and nothing has been the same since. The old weird has become the new normal. Wanting to keep audiences invested, we carried on forth with Stone Cold Steve Austin coming to Raw, a huge problem being that who has more of a relationship with a live crowd than him? That's why a genuine pastime is YouTubing Austin fan pops. It remains amazing. Stone Cold hammed this up by engaging with the empty seats much to his own confusion, when for no reason Byron Saxton started rating him with scorecards. It was obviously done so the bionic redneck could have someone to stun, And that's what he did to end the show. It was fine for what it was, but not really what it should have been. And who knew that all these months later, we'd still flippin' be here. Know of any other wrestling moments that couldn't live up to the hype? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll talk to you again very soon.